So you start off concerning yourself with the suffering of men, and then you discover that this suffering is in a large part due to poverty, and then you keep drilling down until you find out that you're confronted with a question of evil, right? The question of evil. It's it's the one philosophical question that nobody seems to have a good answer for, right? And I got to thinking about it in a really different way quite recently. You see, I grew up Catholic, and so I inherited the Western Judeo-Christian understanding of evil, right? So in the Judeo-Christian tradition, evil is this force that is opposed to the good. It is itself rooted in a rogue agent, right? God creates all these things. He creates this beautiful agent, these beautiful angels, and one of the angels goes rogue, right? One of the angels decides that he is going to be just like God. Now, how does a thing that has been made by divinity begin to compete with divinity? We don't understand it, but perhaps it has implications for artificial intelligence, that it is possible for us to create something. I mean, we know this, right? And I'll get back to evil very quickly, but as an aside, we know that we have, as men, created things that see better than us, right? Telescopes. We know that we have created things that hear with greater accuracy than we do. We know that we've created things that can sense, right? There are robots that can sense concentrations of things at levels that human beings cannot detect, and so we know that it's possible to create something that, in some marginal sense, is greater than us, right? But anyway, so back to the problem of evil. So you end up in this space where, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, evil is this angel who has gone rogue, right? Evil is all descended from the devil, and the devil is just a force that is so evil is very dualistic in the Judeo-Christian, the Western tradition, right? You have God, who is the force for good and light and truth, and then you have evil, which is a force for destruction, right? To kill, maim, and destroy, right? And these forces are opposed to each other. And in the tradition that I inherited, navigating life is the question of always tuning in to good instead of tuning into evil, right? Now, you run into some subtleties, but I'm going to avoid that now. For instance, the agency of man, because man mediates this transaction with good or with evil, and at any point in time, we may be predisposed to one or the other based on so many factors that can be outlined. Here is where the contrast comes out, right? In the Eastern tradition, right? In the Eastern tradition, in the mystical traditions of India, and specifically in Vedic teaching, which I've been kind of like trying to educate myself on a little bit. There's a really interesting, right? In Vedic thought, there is what is called the non-duality approach to existence, right? And it is this thing that says that evil is not any force of potency that lies here on, on this side of the spectrum. That is to say, evil is not, right? Evil is Maya, right? In Vedic thought, evil is Maya, which is evil is just ignorance, right? Now, that's a really, really radical approach to the problem of evil, because what it says is that at any point in time, a man can rid himself of evil by educating himself, right? So in the Judeo-Christian tradition, there's a force that is at work, that is just, it's bent on destruction. You cannot educate it. Like, you can't sit the devil down and say, yo, homie, so you try to cut loose, but your methods were wrong. So why don't you get back and fall in line and we'll be cool, right? Because I mean, it's gone, right? That machine is gone rogue. It's never coming back. But in in the Eastern tradition, evil can be reconciled, right? Now, um, I've been thinking about this because you encounter in the world, right, things that are so indescribably evil that you are confronted with almost the conclusion that we just need to, like, I don't know, put some people down, right? It's kind of like, I'll give you an example, right? So recently in the news, you have Ahmaud Arbery, and you have, in the recent past, we've had kind of like, other black people, getting killed, right? And then, as a black person, right, you get up and you say, man, right? Man, what is this thing? What is this thing in a white man, or in any man, right, that wants to destroy life? Now, my approach to this is a little bit different. I think that evil, right? Evil is obviously older than us. What I mean is that, there's studies of chimpanzees in, like, the jungle, right? And they go on these raids, right? And they just terrorize these, like, colobus smaller monkeys, and they tear them up, and I mean, it's so violent, right? It just puts, you think man is violent. You think that, you look at war, and you look at a drone strike, right, on a wedding in Yemen, and you think, man, there is something very dark at the heart of man. And I think that this thing that lies at the heart of man, that is capable of destruction, this thing that the Indians tell us can be educated, can be taught why not to be evil, it's really old, right? It's really old, because if it's in the chimpanzee, and studies have shown that they don't have to do this, right? Like, the chimpanzees, when they go and terrorize these smaller monkeys, and kill and destroy, and, I mean, it's like, it's something right out of a horror movie, right? They don't have to do that. Why do they do it? Because there's something in man that is broken. There's something inside of biology that is broken. I don't want to sort of, because I lose myself in all this higher philosophy, and some of it is garbage, because I think that, like, when a child is hungry, you don't say, well, what is the underlying cause of this child's hunger? No, you either share your food with the child, or you shut up and you weep with it, right? And so there's a part of me that says that, you live out here and you've got all you need, and so you can afford to be philosophical about evil. But Ahmaud Arbery is dead, and Diallo was shot 41 times. But what I'm trying to do is to zoom out, so that maybe I could see more, right? Now, like Sobello said of um of Hannah Arendt, right? That when he called Treblinka and Buchenwald, when he called the evil that was done by the Nazis the banality of evil, right? That she was being academic, right? That is what Sobello said. He said that you are out here and you sit as a professor in your college, and you say, and you analyze evil, and you're going to tell us what evil is. Well, he says, screw you, right? No, evil is 6 million Jews dead, okay? And I don't want your analysis. I don't want you thinking about it. Just shut up, okay? That's one response, right? That's one response to evil. So, like me, I'm out here sitting here analyzing why a man puts his knee on another man's neck until he can't breathe, and then eventually kills him, right? What is this thing? What is this thing? Because you see, that thing, it lies dormant in all of us, right? And I think that this was kind of like, if you will, the genius of Augustine, but also um, if you're if you're Protestant thinking and leaning, you also say that, well, that was his deviance, right? It wasn't his genius, because Aquinas, no, Augustine, he says that when man is born, there is something inside of man, just like that thing that went rogue inside of the devil. That something is inside of a child when it's born that is already rogue, right? Now, that really kind of grates on our sensibilities a little bit, because we say to ourselves, man, you look at an innocent child and you say that there's evil there already. But I think we've all seen it, right? Like I said, we've all seen it. You see a group of boys, right? I don't know, two or three boys, and then if they're in the woods, eventually one of them says, "Hey, I caught a frog," and then another one says, "Hey, let's stick a needle in it," and then another one says, "Oh, let's cut it open." Now maybe that's experimentation, right? Maybe they're just experimenting. Maybe they're just trying to find out what is inside of things. But maybe this is exactly the definition of evil. Maybe this desire to find out what is inside of things, right? Now, I know that I'm dancing at the very edge of the flame here, right? Because Charles, all of scientific endeavor, all of this keyboard that you have strapped on you, and the wristwatch that you've got on, right? All of it is the product of cutting that frog open and finding out what makes it croak. So, but it doesn't take away the fact that when men go in search of finding things out, very often, have you noticed how very, very rarely we turn our powers to good, right? I'm not going to catalog the napalm, right? And the Zyklon B in Japanese trains. I'm not going to catalog the decapitation by the Japanese soldiers, saber practice by the Russians, all of it. I don't want to, that is not necessary for anybody, right? Everybody knows and has seen, if you have watched the news at all, right? You look at the Twin Towers, right? You look at Leopold's Congo, and you look at French rule in Ivory Coast, and you look at English rule in Ghana, right? Again, that's hopefully we're past that conversation, right? What is interesting to me, what I think should be interesting to us, is redefining evil in a way that is kinder, right? I want us to extend our kindness to the definition of evil, because this is what happens, right? If you stop at the supposition that the man who shot Ahmaud Arbery, that he was an instantiation of an evil that is of such rapacious, destructive energy that all that is left for it to do is to fence it off and protect ourselves. I don't think you've gone far enough, right? I think that we need to look at evil and recognize in evil something that lies dormant at the center of all men, right? So when a lion, right? When a lion invades a another pride, right? And it just kills all the baby lions, right? And then so that it can impregnate all the females, right? How how is it that the lion knows that the cubs that are in the tribe that he just invaded don't have its genes? Do you see what I'm saying? The lion wants its genes to go forth into the future. Now that's a wild thing, man, because what it teaches us is that evil is older than man. Unless you're going to make the argument of recursion, right? Which says that, well, maybe there's a devil of lions, and that devil of lions, it is what influences this kind of behavior, because I think that it is evil, broadly defined, when this lion destroys the lives of all the cubs. And so that leads me to think that evil is older than man. Now, let's be mathematical about it, right? If this is true, what else is true? If we can assume and agree that evil is older than man, then our approach to its diagnoses and, if you will, discernment needs to be more nuanced, right? Now, I don't want to look, and again, right? There's been studies that have tried to see whether there's a disproportionate, you know, level and probability of a white officer shooting and killing a black man. And again, it finds that it's not so, right? If you watch CNN, you think that white cops are out here just shooting niggas. That's not how it is, right? That's not true. But there's still Ahmaud Arbery is still dead, right? And Diallo is dead, and Trayvon Martin is dead, and life is gone, and we blame it on evil. I blame it on evil, right? Because I think that if we fence ourselves off and we think that some way somehow white cops are so dangerous to black life that we all need to be terrified, and we need to, I don't know, right? Set AutoZone on fire and blue Target, right? Now, again, that has nothing to do with the death of these people, right? I mean, in a strange way, we can sort of say that what happens, right? What happens when a man feels so powerless against a system that he feels that his only outlet is destructive energy, right? Is destructive force. We've seen it other places in the world, but America's a miracle, man, and it's not perfect, but we can hope. We can hope for the chance that justice might have a shot right here. Like I always say, I grew up in Ghana, right? And one time, this high school graduate from the Air Force, he got up and he killed all the high court judges, and he became president for the next 20 years. So what I'm saying is that if you're Ghanaian or you're whatever, and you're sitting out here and you're thinking that this here America is so dark and it's so dangerous and it's so backward, let's pause and think, right? Let's pause and think, because I am from a place where, like I said, that man did evil, right? So if you look at the accumulation of knowledge that goes into making a high court judge, right? It means that at one point in time, this man, right, he destroyed, I could be exaggerating a little bit, but he destroyed about 30% of the accumulation of knowledge in a nation, right? In killing those men and women, what he had done was snuff out all the minds that were capable of bringing nuanced thought and understanding to a problem and to a situation. And like I said, he went on to become president for 20 years. So thanks to meditation, right, I'm not going to set AutoZone on fire. And it's not because I don't care about the death of Trayvon Martin or Ahmaud Arbery or any of our brothers and sisters who perish under the knees of men whose heart harbor evil. Because I am trying for us to be more clinical than that. I am trying to see what we can find out if we could stop our fear. And as this tiger leaps onto a man, right? And then it begins. to eviscerate it. I'm hoping that we can hold our breath, look in the eyes of evil, and find out what it wants, right? What is this evil here for? So again, in the Eastern tradition, right, they say that evil is just the veil of Maya, right? That this man who puts his knees on another man's throat until he suffocates him, that it's because he doesn't know that in trying to access power by the subjugation of a man, by the snuffing out of his life, that what he's reaching for is an illusion, right? It's an illusion. It's an illusion. That is the understanding of evil in Eastern traditions. It says that when a man goes and forces himself on a woman and rapes a woman, that the pleasure that he's seeking for, that it's Maya, that it's illusion. That if we could help that man see that this pleasure is an illusion that is generated by the agitation of his mind, right? So a man sees a beautiful woman and then says that I want that woman, right? And I don't know, maybe the woman doesn't want him. And so he says that, well, I'm stronger than the woman. I'm going to have her anyway. What is happening in that man's mind? I think that what is happening in that man's mind is that his consciousness, right? Which again, in Eastern thought, right, is Brahman, right? His consciousness is what we will call in the West God, right? Because, and this is again another way in which the Eastern tradition is very, very radically different from the Western understanding. So in the Eastern tradition, God is not a force that dwells in heaven, but God is a force that is distributed in all that exists, in all of creation, right? And so, to some extent, in the Judeo-Christian tradition as well, we know that the breath of God is what gives man life. So to the extent that a man is animated, he holds in himself the breath of God. But this man who shoots Omar Arbery, he has the breath of God, right? He has ruach, right? um, what in Hebrew, or is it Aramaic, is ruach, right? The breath of God. And this breath of God is present at once with the will or the capacity to turn a man's will towards evil. And so that man, he pulls out his gun and then he unloads 41 shots in another man. And he said that is because my life was threatened. And there's every part of me that says to hang that man with his entrails, right? Because it's almost impossible to understand what makes a man justify a crime with that sort of excuse. But in the Eastern tradition, all of evil is Maya. The reason I think that we need to amend the Judeo-Christian worldview with the Eastern tradition and understanding is that the Eastern tradition is kinder towards evil. I think the Eastern tradition is kinder towards evil. It doesn't say evil is something that we must hedge ourselves away from. Now, when you read Meister Eckhart and the mystics in the West, they begin to approach this almost Eastern understanding of evil, right? Because isn't that what that the renunciation of the cross is, right? The renunciation from the cross that says, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do, right? Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. It's as if on the cross, right? Christ himself ultimately echoes this Eastern understanding of evil as founded in ignorance, right? It's founded in ignorance. Now me, right? I say all this to say that I'm not surprised that there are some white people who are racist, you know? I mean, can you imagine a world where the races couldn't interbreed? You know, I feel like we're so lucky, man. Like, if white people and black people couldn't make babies, and white people and Asians couldn't make babies, and you know, Asians and the Aborigines couldn't make babies, and man, right? Can you imagine the carnage? Man, the Russians will just carpet bomb all of Africa, just carpet bomb all of it, and and um and can you imagine what would have happened? Uh, I mean, like even with our capacity to interbreed, right? Which biology tells us that it tells us that we are at least very very close as a species, right? I know that we're one species, but if you're a supporter of eugenics, you're thinking, well, you know, whatever, right? So you end up with this understanding that says that, yeah, man, evil is here and it's it's in the world, and I'm hoping that evil can be shown the light, right? Evil can be shown the light, um, because another way that I think that this sort of affects how we mediate the conversation around suffering is that, like, I've had friends of mine, right, who are, decent people, like they're Christians, and they say, well, the man, right, Jesus, he says that how long has this been going for? He says that the poor you will always have with you, right? The poor you will always have with you. And it's staggering to me, right? It's staggering to me how quickly we are to jump to that defense, right? What we say, why is there so much suffering in the world, right? You look at these pictures and images of slums, from Sao Paulo all the way to India, right? Through Africa, right? These terrible images of, children just emaciated, and the mothers just hopeless, just carrying children who are almost on the verge of death. And we say, well, the man, he said that the poor will always be here till kingdom come. And so let's wait till kingdom come, and then maybe we can fix it. But what if we thought that we got the translation wrong, right? What if we could imagine that Jesus had rather said, have you not always had the poor with you, right? Because isn't that what God would say, right? Isn't that what we would expect God to say to Judas? To say to him, my friend, here you are attacking this woman for blessing me in this beautiful way, because you imagine that the value of this oil, that it could be sold and given to the poor. But my friend, have you not always had the poor with you, right? So in a sense, he was not saying it's cool, let poverty be, but he was saying that, you know you are not going to end it all by denying me the little good this woman could offer me, right? That's what I imagined that he was saying. That he was saying that the poor has been here, and I don't see him doing too much to help him. But now that this woman comes and loves on me a little bit, you jump up and you say, well, this is why they're poor people, right? Is the kind of person who says, why are you sitting here in this Japanese restaurant eating $20 worth or $50 worth of sushi? Don't you know that there's homeless people out there? And he says, my friend, can I not myself enjoy a little bit of this sushi? Must I be denied a little bit of the sushi that I enjoy because poor people are in the world? But we must not make that into an excuse for turning our eyes and face away from evil.